Well, are you gonna vote now? Good people, me talk. It's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now? And a little one, we want. And a little bridge, we preach. Still they bust up their big guns on the street. Boy, can people, oh, there is sneak. Who is it that I'm is speaking? Who is it that is controlling the system? Three parties and I'm not dancing. Who is it? Who is she? No, who is the Mr. King? Yeah, it's your campaign time again now. Ooh, yeah. Well, it's politics time again. The people have a cry now. Ooh, it's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now? Hey, everything raise, but we won't live on front. When the air that we breathe becomes thick with them, then we know that a guide we will never fret. Whenever you're ready, we're ready. No more spot check. Ready your light when you're heavy. Happy or respect, Lord, 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 no war. No war. Yeah. Well, it's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now? Who is worthy? Who is worthy? It's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now? Poor people cry. It's the right of senior citizens to vote. Why upon them constitution? Long time it did a joke. We are fed up with promises and hopeless hope. Ballot box must be empty. Vote house closed. No one hand, no one through the cola half them close, y'all. Some just plain greedy. No matter how we teach, they'll forget easier. It's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now?
Right now we are say Watson D for the East, Tasha B for the West.
Straight out in a star.
Yo, this I no joke. Vote, vote. This I no joke. Vote, vote.
You see right now.
This I no joke. Say we a vote PDP, we a vote PDP, cause we want betterment, yeah, for we country. Vote PDP, we a vote PDP, PNM them never do nothing for we. Vote PDP, we a vote PDP, full time me try feed you, Mr. Farley. Vote PDP, we a vote PDP, kick out pressure pot roll it. 5 years no worry session. Tell me with the L pressure pot. Roll it the pan him not give it with the right, but him a take it with the left. And tell me with the LTH he do it 2.2 billion. And the people in Tobago pure sufferation. And the worst government me ever see govern. Raging bull with no direction. All me a see a just bad intention. And me na talk no lie, me a speak the truth. From Kelvin Charles signing them the pan you. Now I walk up and the youth and them a try get the youth. They would lie, them a just blow me a talk the truth, me na talk no lie. Instead them risk pay, only food I get and poor people a cry. Me ask them why, and me a vote for the people.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, PDP family. Good morning, everyone who is tuned in on the radio, on Facebook, wherever you are. This is Dr. Faith B. Israel, and I am in this morning with the Progressive Democratic Patriots. We are here once again to keep on the track of ensuring that every single Tobagonian understands how important this election is, ensuring that every single Tobagonian understands that on August 10th there is only one choice. If you want to choose having positivity, if you want to choose ensuring that your family lives a good life, if you want to ensure that when you go to the hospital there is stuff there for you to, there's medication, if you want to ensure that when you go to the grocery, when you are paying for your bills, paying for your grocery, it is not 2 and 3 and 4 times more than if you go to the grocery in Trinidad. So we are the Progressive Democratic Patriots, the PDP, Progressive Democratic Patriots. And we are here going again. We have two candidates going for the Tobago East and the Tobago West seats. We have Mr. Watson Solomon Duke, who is our political leader and currently the minority leader of the Tobago House of Assembly. And he will be contesting the Tobago East seat on behalf of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. We also have Miss Tashia Grace Boris, and she will be contesting the Tobago West seat on behalf of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. As you know, the elections are August 10th. Monday, August 10th is the date for the election, and we are asking each and every one of you to please go out and vote. Ensure that you get up very, very early. I actually saw a couple this morning, and they plan to get up very early that morning. And as we say, get up and pray and do whatever you need to do, whether it's praying, whether it is going on our meditating, whatever it is you do in mornings to ensure that you are settled and to ensure that your head is in the right space. Get up and do that on August 10th. Put on some decent clothes. Don't wear anything with a political mark, because on that day you're not supposed to be putting on any political stuff, so no symbol or anything like that. And ensure that you get to the polling station. Wherever your polling station is, get to it. My aim is to be at my polling station at 6 a.m. I want to be, when they say consecutive number one, I want to be number one. If I'm not number one, I want to be within the first 5, because I want that at the end of that period, when I have registered my vote, that we go out and we call or we message or we pick up people, we use our transportation or whatever we do, we go out to the polls to ensure that everybody else gets to the polls too. That's what we need to do. That's what we have to do on August 10th, and we're asking each and every one of you to be a part of that process with us. Yesterday I spent a little bit of time, and I want to thank those of you who listened in, because I had a few people calling me, meeting me, messaging me, and telling me that they tuned in, they listened in, and they appreciated the information that we gave. And I will continue with that today, because Tobago needs to get off of this bandwagon of voting just because somebody gave you a jersey, or voting just because somebody's your family, or voting just because your family was that party forever and ever and ever, or voting because somebody says some foolishness about some other person, some other candidate, or anything like that. No. Tobago needs to get to the point where we are voting based on issues. And when we vote based on issues, we are voting for the best candidate and the best party, because the best candidate and the best party is who is going to advance that particular issue and advance that issue on behalf of Tobago. That is what we are hoping that we do this go around, because for far too long we have been voting just because. For far too long we've been voting for some very foolish reasons, and we have gotten pretty bad governance as a result of why we've been voting. The Progressive Democratic Patriots is very clear. We have been following through with everything that we've said thus far. We have been the voice in the Tobago House of Assembly. You would recognize that every time Mr. Watson Solomon Duke, Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine, or myself, Dr. Faith B. Israel, every time we speak in the Tobago House of Assembly, every time we speak on behalf of our positions in the Minority Council of the Tobago House of Assembly, we are advancing the cause of Tobagonians. We are speaking about people who are not getting their salaries. We are speaking about people who are being victimized because of the political party they associate with. We are speaking about people who are having their businesses closed because of the failed inter-island system that we experienced for the first 3 years of this THA. We have been speaking out on behalf of every citizen. We've been speaking out on behalf of the farmers who have been trying to get water and who have been trying to get electricity and those things within their farms. The Progressive Democratic Patriots has been speaking out on behalf of all Tobagonians. And by the way, I hope you recognize, because I know several people who have different political affiliations, but when they come to me and when they come to my counterparts, Assemblyman Fadi Chavez Augustine and Minority Leader Watson Duke, we do not ask, who did you vote for? We do not ask which color you normally wear. We do not ask who do you associate with. We deal with you because you are a citizen, because you are residing here, because you are a human being who needs to be treated well, who needs to be treated with respect, who needs to get your salary, he needs to be able to travel. We don't ask who you voted for, because we honestly believe that after election, our main aim, our main role is to advocate on behalf of everyone. The day after election day is when we put down our jerseys and we put down our flags and we represent people. That has been the mantra of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, and that will continue to be the mantra of the Progressive Democratic Patriots throughout all of this. So you don't even have to worry about that. We have never asked, who did you vote for? We will never ask, who did you vote for? You don't have to worry about that. Yesterday, I spent a little bit of time talking about the fact that the Progressive Democratic Patriots has been advocating on behalf of Tobago getting a level of independence so that we are on par with the level of independence that Trinidad currently experiences. And I would explain that a little bit really quickly. We have a situation where we have two islands, Trinidad and Tobago, and collectively the islands of Trinidad and Tobago make up the country known as Trinidad and Tobago. We are supposed to be a country that walks side by side, where we are brother and sister, where we are side by side equal partners in this thing coming together. That is how it should be. But currently, that is not how it is. Anybody who lives on these two islands, anybody who visits one, lives on the other and visits the other, we recognize that there are huge disparities between Trinidad and Tobago. We recognize that if you are Trinidad can currently get food from wherever they want. Trinidad can currently import anything into Trinidad without seeking permission from Tobago. Trinidad can currently take a loan on the international market without seeking any kind of permission from Tobago. Trinidad currently experiences a level of independence that Tobago does not experience. And let me use the same examples. Many of you see it. Many of you know it. Mr. Watson Duke, the candidate for Tobago East and the current minority leader of the Tobago House of Assembly, speaks continually about us having a CARICOM jetty here in Tobago. It is because we currently do not have a CARICOM jetty here in Tobago. So if anything, any goods or anything needs to come into Tobago from any of the other CARICOM countries, it has, by law, has to go to Trinidad first, because we do not have a CARICOM jetty in Tobago that allows us to have it dropped here first. So that is one place where we are absolutely dependent on Trinidad. If you are a storekeeper, if you have any business that you need to import things, those things need to go to a port in Trinidad first, and then we have to pack up, go to Trinidad and try to get it from Trinidad, showing that Tobago is dependent on Trinidad. We want to get to a space where even though Trinidad and Tobago remains as a single country, Tobago is not that dependent on Trinidad, because we need to be able to survive by ourselves if need be. For example, we have a storm that is now brewing. What if something happens to our ports in Trinidad that, during the storm that is brewing, that is expected to come over the weekend? What if something happens there? What if something happens and we can't travel? The boat, something wrong with the boats and we can't travel. We should be able to have our own port, our own CARICOM port in Tobago, where our vendors, where our business people can import things directly to Tobago. And this is why people always ask, why are things so expensive in Tobago? It is because we have that additional expense. They have to go to Trinidad and then we pick it up from Trinidad. So you now have the added cost of sending a truck, sending a driver, paying for the ticket, paying for the driver, paying the driver to get to Trinidad. They have to drive around, get to Point Lisas, get to Port of Spain, get to wherever they have to go. You then have to pay for them to eat, pay for them to sleep overnight, depending on what's happening. So many things are happening that adds to the cost. So by the time that item gets to Tobago, it now costs more than if you had purchased it in Trinidad. That is the situation we are currently in. So when the Progressive Democratic Patriots speaks about the fact that we want an independent Tobago, we are not talking about separating from Trinidad. I will say it again. We are not talking about separating from Trinidad. We are not talking about seceding from Trinidad. We are not talking about that. We are talking about developing the island so that we can stand on our own 2 feet, so that we can really be side by side, because where we are now is one behind the other. So I want us to be very, very clear. Yesterday, I spoke about having economic independence and how having these two candidates, Mr. Watson Duke and Mr. Shea Grace Boris, go to Trinidad to advocate on our behalf, how them advocating for that 10% of the budget would allow Tobago to then have a greater sense of independence, because we are investing more money in Tobago, and when we invest more money in Tobago, Tobago can then develop its own industries so that we could start making our own money and start making our own profit. We spoke about that yesterday. I also mentioned yesterday that we need to have judicial independence, and I would do that another day. I will speak about that on another day so that we could get a sense of what that means for Tobago. Judicial independence. But today I want to focus on legislative independence. Legislative independence. Again, I am speaking about the fact that we need to be able to do things in Tobago on behalf of Tobago without having to seek permission from Trinidad to do it. I want you all to be very, very clear, because some of those people on the red side want to keep us in bondage. They want to keep us in slavery. They want to keep us in modern day slavery. So I want you, every one of you who's listening to me, to listen extremely carefully. Listen very carefully, so that when they come with their foolish talk, you can say, what you are saying makes no sense, and this is the truth. Okay, that is where we are going this morning. The Progressive Democratic Patriots is also speaking about having what we term legislative independence for the Tobago House of Assembly. That is what we are talking about. You know right now that the Tobago House of Assembly exists because of this document, because of this act known as the Tobago House of Assembly Act. That is an act of parliament, and because it's an act of parliament, it is not enshrined within the constitution. It's an act of parliament, which means it takes a simple majority to make amendments. And this is why this is critical. It takes a simple majority, meaning one more than half. So there are 41 seats, means that 21 is all that it takes to pass or to amend the Tobago House of Assembly Act. Yesterday, I spoke about the fact that one of the amendments that we are looking at is to have the Tobago House of Assembly get 10% of the budget instead of the 4.03 to 6.9% that is currently in the Act. It's a matter of editing, wiping it out, saying we're changing 4.03 to 10 and have at least 21 people in the Parliament vote for that. That is what we are asking for. And remember, I said yesterday that the timing of this election is critical because this election is in August and we know what happens right after August. September, October is budget. So whoever the PDP, whoever is in government there, whoever the PDP negotiates with, who could give us that, they have until budget. They have until the reading of the budget to prove that they have held on their side of the negotiation. And we all know that Mr. Watson Solomon Duke, who has been the head of the PSA for some time, who is the master negotiator in Trinidad and Tobago, probably throughout the Caribbean. Other union members, other union leaders throughout the Caribbean knows about Mr. Watson Duke and the kind of success that he has had as a union leader. And what he is doing is bringing that kind of success to the Parliament, negotiating with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, whoever government of Trinidad and Tobago that will be on the 11th of August, for us to then say, let us turn that 4.03 to 6.9% in the Tobago House of Assembly Act to 10%. That is what we spoke about yesterday. That is what we spoke about yesterday. Today, we are going to talk about another part of the Act that we know needs to be changed. It's another simple part of the Act that needs to be changed. And if you don't believe me, I encourage each and every one of you, and this is the thing, this is the thing that those red people are afraid of. Because when the Progressive Democratic Patriots comes to you, we come to you with facts and figures. We come to you with, as the young people say, receipts. We don't come with any fancy story and any recitation and that kind of thing. No. When we come to you bringing the information. Because if more of us have the information, if more of us are educated on the topic, then we can make more informed decisions. And we will not allow anybody who is paid a couple $100 to come around and try to tell you that PDP's UNC should not vote for them. You would have more information than that, and you would be able to say to them, okay, even if what you are saying we know is not true, but you tell us why we should vote for you. Don't tell me why I should not vote for them, tell me why we should vote for you. And we would recognize very quickly that when you hit them with those things, when you ask them, so what about the THA Act that they are speaking about, what are you planning to do, then you would recognize that they very quickly backpedal because they have no answers, they have no plans, they have no policies, they have nothing. That is why they've been able to do nothing for the last couple of years. So I am going to direct you, if you have never seen the document before, all of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, and this is just general education, every single law of Trinidad and Tobago, including the Constitution, is online. I know we hire lawyers because we think that lawyers are the only people who have access to this information and so forth. No, it is not true. Every single act, every single law that refers to Trinidad and Tobago is online and is available for every single person who has internet to go and download it and then print it and whatever you wish to read. So I am telling you, go to Google, search Tobago House of Assembly Act. That's all you do. Go on Google and search Tobago House of Assembly Act. You would see several things come up. You need to look for the website that has legal affairs because all of these acts are on the Ministry of Legal Affairs website. They are all there. I think the second or third one on the list would be the actual act. You could just click on it, download it, and you would be able to read it. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. When we speak about legislative independence, what we are talking about is the fact that in the Tobago House of Assembly, we are responsible for things that are on the 5th schedule. The 5th schedule is the list of areas where we are responsible for. It is in the Act. The 5th schedule includes things like education, environment, housing, social services, health care. All of those things are on the 5th schedule. What we are saying is that the Tobago House of Assembly should have the ability to make laws for Tobago for items on the 5th schedule of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. That's all we are saying. And for that to be done, again, it requires an amendment of the Tobago House of Assembly Act to get that done. And I would point you to the exact parts of the Tobago House of Assembly Act that needs to be amended for that part to happen. I am going slowly today. This is not a bacchanal day. This is one of the days where I want every one of you to go out and call your friend, call your family, tell them tune in to 91.9 because Dr. Faith is speaking about why we need to send Tashia Grace Boris and Watson Solomon Duke to Trinidad, because I am speaking facts and I am telling you exactly where to go to get the information. When you go and look at it and when you print it, whenever any of those red people come to you and they try to come with any Nancy story, pull out your THA Act and show them. Ask them if they've ever even seen this document, because they are trying to tell you that sending 2 Tobago reps, sending 2 PDP Tobago reps to Trinidad will do nothing. But we know for a fact that every time Tobago has gotten something is when we sent 2 real Tobagonians to Trinidad. It happened with Pam Nicholson. It happened with Robinson. It happened with so many of the others. And it only happens, we only get quote unquote something when we send real Tobago reps to Trinidad. We have never gotten a single thing when we send quote unquote Tobago PNM reps to Trinidad. I want you all to remember that. When we send quote unquote PNM Tobago reps to Trinidad, we have never gotten a single thing. You can look at the last 4 or 5 years. There were 2 there who are asking you to send them back. You need to ask them, what have they done in the time that they were there? Why should we send you back when you just spent 5 years and you have not done the things that would really, really advance Tobago? And let me stick a pin right there. Because they will come and tell you. They would come and tell you that they got the fire station built and they got the police station built in Roxborough and they're building the hospital and all kind of things. But if you remember, you would remember that 15 years now we've been talking about a new fire station for Roxborough. We've been talking about a new new police station. We've been talking about a new hospital for Roxborough. Donkey years. So if you went there for 5 years after your people have been promising us and you were only able to get it close to the end of the 5 years, and the only reason you even got it close to the end of the 5 years is because Mr. Watson Solomon Duke is the area rep for that area, then obviously you have failed. Obviously, I have no qualms in saying that they spent the last 5 years and they did nothing. So you do not take God out of your thoughts to say you are sending them back there, because they've already proven that they will do nothing with that time. They are proving that they will do nothing in that time. Okay? So, remember I said we have the 5th schedule of the Tobago House of Assembly Act, and the 5th schedule includes things like healthcare, education, and those things. Those things are what is in the 5th schedule of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. When we are sending our 2 PDP reps, our Tashia Grace Boris and our Watson Solomon Duke to Trinidad, in addition to negotiating for the 10% In addition to negotiating for the 10%, we also want them to negotiate to change this, because it could all happen at the same time. It's just one document that we need to take to Parliament one day, have them vote, take it to the upper house, take it to the lower house, upper house, have them vote, and then it's gone. Then it's through. This does not take that long. And remember, we're not even talking about doing a whole thing. We're just talking about amending the act that is currently there. So what does the act currently say about our ability to make laws? What does the act currently say? If you've downloaded the act, or even if you haven't downloaded it yet and you're waiting to do it after the show, take a note of this. Section 29 of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. Section 29. It is numbered. The numbers in bold is what you are looking for. Section 29 is on page 16, so write it down. Section 29 speaks about what is known as assembly laws. Assembly laws. I am sure many of you did not know that the Tobago House of Assembly can make what are known as assembly laws. They can make what are known as assembly laws. So the fact that we can make laws to some degree already exist in the Act Tobago. I want you all to pay special attention to me. The fact that we can make laws already exist in the Act. This is not something new that we're trying to invent. This is not something new that we're trying to bring about. The law, it is already in the Act. All we are doing is trying to amend the process that is currently written in the Act. So it's really a matter of taking out a few lines. You all need to pay close attention. The Act, when you look at Section 9, and I won't read the actual wording because you know the wordings of these things as be kind of convoluted, and no. What it basically says is that Section 9 says that if the Tobago House of Assembly needs to make what is known as an assembly law, it needs to bring it to the Tobago House of Assembly for us to debate. So it needs to draft it, and it needs to bring it to the Tobago House of Assembly for us to debate it. So you see those Thursday, the last Thursday or the fourth Thursday of every month, when we go to the House and we have the debates, that bill needs to be drafted and brought to the House of Assembly for all of us to debate. That is the first step. After we've debated it in the House, and after we have passed it in the House, we can make adjustments, we can add, take away, whatever. We then, and this is where it becomes a stickler. This is where it becomes an issue, because we then have to take it to the cabinet in Trinidad. We have to then take it, because it says here, it shall be transmitted by the Chief Secretary to the Secretary to Cabinet. So after we pass it in Tobago, we have to send it to Cabinet. What is Cabinet, you ask? Cabinet is Cabinet is the equivalent of the Executive Council in Tobago. So in Tobago, we have the situation where we had the elections. We had 10 seats going to PNM, 2 going to PDP. Because the PNM won, because they had more seats, they are quote-unquote in charge of the Tobago House of Assembly. The groupings of them that get together and meet every week and make decisions about what we're building and what we're implementing and so forth, that is the Executive Council. And I just want you to note that the Minority Council, meaning Mr. Watson Duke, Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine and myself, are not part of those meetings. We have no interaction with those meetings. We do not know what is happening inside those meetings. Those are the meetings where they decide to build a road. Those are the meetings where they decide to give a contractor a contract. Those are the meetings where they decide how they will spend money. The Minority Council is not a part of those meetings. It is just in Tobago, the PNM people right now who are in the Executive Council. The Cabinet in Trinidad is exactly the same as the Executive Council in Tobago, where the Cabinet in Trinidad is made up of the PNM people, because during the last election, PNM won the election. So they have their people, all of the ministers that are part, they are in cabinet in Trinidad. The members who are on the opposition in Trinidad, same way as the members on the opposition in Tobago who are not part of executive council, the members on the opposition in Trinidad are not part of cabinet. So this is important, because when they tell you that they sent the Tobago Autonomy Bill to Trinidad, and you have to ask how long did it take to get even to the Parliament, they sent it to their PNM counterparts in Trinidad. They sent it to Cabinet in Trinidad. The decision on what to do with the bill was solely in the hands of the PNM Cabinet in Trinidad. Don't allow them to tell you that it had anything to do with any other party in Trinidad. Don't allow them to come with that folly. It is a lie. They sent it to the cabinet, and that is what has to happen with any bill here, which is part of the problem. That is one of the first things that the PDP is saying we want to get rid of. Because we don't want to have to write a bill in Tobago for something that is important to us in Tobago. And after we do all of the hard work about it in Tobago, we had to send it in Trinidad for whatever party that is in charge in Trinidad to make a decision as to where it will go and whether it will even be debated. No, that is utter foolishness. We are supposed to be side by side, not one behind the other. That is why I say, when we talk about independence, Trinidad is currently independent from Tobago. Because if Trinidad wants to send a law, Trinidad does not have to send it to the THA or Tobago for anybody in Tobago to say they agree or disagree before putting it to Parliament. While those of us in Tobago, if we have to do a bill for Tobago and send it to Trinidad, we have to ask, in essence, their permission for it to even get to the cabinet. Tobago is completely dependent on Trinidad in a way that Trinidad is not dependent on Tobago. I want you all to understand this and understand this very clearly. Be clear in your minds. So when, for example, the Prime Minister talks about the fact that anybody who wants to say anything about independence for Tobago talking stupidness, that is the kind of thing he wants to keep you in. That is the kind of slavery he wants to keep you in. That is the kind of colonialism he, a quote-unquote Tobagonian, wants to keep you in, because we are fighting to get us out from under that kind of stranglehold. Because that is what we are fighting for. He is saying anybody who telling you that talking stupidness, or you listen to the man. That is why I carefully say that he may have been born in Tobago, but he really does not function like a Tobagonian. He does not function like somebody who loves Tobago and wants to see the best for Tobago. He does not. And when he is attacking Mr. Duke so vigorously, you have to ask yourself, why is it that a Tobagonian would spend all of his time attacking another Tobagonian when that Tobagonian wants to see Tobago develop and wants to see Tobago to be on the same footing as Trinidad? Ask yourself that, people. What is it? Why is Mr. Rowley spending all of his time attacking Mr. Duke when all that Mr. Duke wants to give to Tobago is the things that we are talking about? One of them being the ability to make our own laws without having to get permission from whoever is in the cabinet in Trinidad first. Be very, very clear. If you look at section 29 of the Tobago House of Assembly Act, that is what it says. When Tobago passes the bill, we have to send it to the cabinet for them to decide what happens. When they decide, if they decide, because we've sent several bills down that never even made it out of the cabinet, We've sent several bills down that have not made it out of the cabinet. Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine continually speaks about the fact that they wanted to have a environmental reserve space in Speyside, and we needed that to be on law. And when we sent that bill, nothing happened to it. We have no idea where it went, because we needed to get permission from the cabinet in Trinidad to have it passed. Now, when the cabinet decides, yes, we just do pity on them, it looked like something good, let us send it to the parliament. That is where it then goes to the parliament to be debated. When it is debated in parliament, that is where you now have an opportunity for everybody who is in the parliament to vote. This is where you have an opportunity for, in Trinidad, both opposition and cabinet, both everybody who is a member of parliament in Trinidad can now vote for it. The Tobago Autonomy Bill, the one that was sent to cabinet in 2017-2018, that finally made it out of cabinet and into the parliament, because they boasted about it. You remember when Mr. Orville London was leaving, he kept talking about the fact that he had done all of this work, even though we know he didn't really do no whole set of work, because there were so many other people doing work for the decade before him. But that is a different story. When he sent it, because he was leaving, and remember he left in 2017, he was very, very clear, and he was very boastful about the fact that he had sent it to Trinidad, and that is going to be one of his hallmarks. So when we look at the dates, we have to be clear with the dates. So that was sent to Trinidad in 2017. 2018 is when it finally made it to the parliament. And we were so excited. We were so wonderful. We were like finally something is happening, because it's been years and years and years and years and years. When it got to the parliament in Trinidad, they decided that they were not happy with what got to the parliament, so they were going to send it to a joint select committee. That is what happened in 2018. In 2018, when they set up the Joint Select Committee, they told us that the Select Committee was going to be running for 3 months, and that they would have done their report in 3 months, and we would have seen whatever recommendations that they suggested, whatever amendments, and then it would go to actual Parliament for votes. That was in 2018. 2018. It is still before the Joint Select Committee. Parliament has been dissolved and nothing has happened. That is what has happened to that bill. And that's just one example of a bill that Tobago sent to Trinidad for them to do something with, and they did nothing. And the Prime Minister have the gall to get on TV and say, well, before the Joint Select Committee, it is going to be in Parliament, but we know the others wouldn't vote for it. How does he know that? How did he know that? It never got to the stage of them voting. We should have gotten it done since 2018, 2019, so that by now we know what we're dealing with. But it was not done. Nothing was done. It is probably sitting on some desk somewhere. And by the way, I would let you all know very, very clearly that they try to hoodwink us. And this is going back to why you need to not have those two red MPs go back to Trinidad, because they are not speaking on behalf of Tobago. And let me be very clear. I saw the draft that was sent to Trinidad. In the draft that was sent to Trinidad, there were 3 very clear definitions in that draft. It included a definition of Tobago, which basically is the land space known as Tobago, and the little islands around and so forth, and a couple nautical miles around. That is what Tobago was defined as. Trinidad was also equally defined, meaning Trinidad is, if it's like the equation and it's Trinidad and Tobago, if Tobago is the land space and a little bit all of the things around, Trinidad is the land space in Trinidad and a little bit around. Trinidad and Tobago is now everything, those 2 land spaces and all of the resources that are in the sea that is officially highlighted as or designated as Trinidad and Tobago Exclusive Economic Zone. I need you all to listen. That was very clear in the bill that we sent down, that we had a clear definition of Tobago, a clear definition of Trinidad, and a clear definition of Trinidad and Tobago. At the first meeting of the Joint Select Committee in Tobago, that very, very first meeting, it was a Sunday afternoon. It was, I think, Victor E. Bruce. At that first meeting, when the Joint Select Committee came, that is when those of us in Tobago recognized that they had changed that part of the bill. They had changed that part of the bill, and they had just said, we will give a definition of Tobago, but we will not provide a definition of Trinidad. Now, you think about this. This is basic maths, basic algebra. If A plus B equals C, so Trinidad plus Tobago equal Trinidad and Tobago, and you give a definition of Tobago, and the rest of it gonna be Trinidad, because that is what maths says. So if we gave a definition of Trinidad, gave a definition of Tobago, and then gave a definition of Trinidad and Tobago, which includes everything, and you take that out, secretly take that out, because they didn't tell anybody to take that out. At least they didn't tell anybody in Tobago they took that out, because we were all very surprised when we saw that they took it out. And when it was highlighted in the GSC, they basically told us we were lying. They basically said, no, we didn't take out anything. The thing that is in front of you now is exactly what you sent. And they went on and on and on and on about it. But thank God we had people who were competent and people who knew what they were talking about then at that GSC. Thank God. And Dr. Vanus James was one of the people who said very clearly, ma'am, no, we know what was sent to Trinidad, and what you are presenting now does not represent what we sent to Trinidad. And do you know what our two MPs did? Nothing. Do you know what our two PNM MPs said? Nothing. Nothing. I keep saying they behave as if they have peanut butter in their mouth whenever it comes to speaking on behalf of the people who voted for them. They should have been the one. Even if everybody else in Trinidad saying no, that is not what was sent, they should have been the one standing up very loudly and saying to their counterparts in Trinidad, hey, by the way, we see the document that Tobago sent, and what all you're doing right there in the GSC does not represent the document, because we really represent Tobago. Did they do that? No. They sat quietly and allowed their counterparts in Trinidad to change one of the most critical aspects of the law that we were trying to put in. They sat quietly and allowed them to take it out. They sat quietly and behaved like cheerers and drummer boys and drummer girls. They sat quietly and said nothing, while their counterparts in Trinidad took out one of the most critical components of that bill. That is what they did. We know, all of you know, that if that was Watson Solomon Duke, or if that was Tashia Grace Boris, that couldn't happen. Even if it means we was mashing up the meeting, that was not going anywhere. And you all know that. You all know that. And that is why I keep saying you all have to put fighters, people who are willing to fight on behalf of what we know is right for Tobago. Send them down. Send Watson Solomon Duke and Tashia Grace Boris down, because they would have never allowed that change to be made in that document, to them come up and tell we don't know what document we sent to Trinidad. And that's the thing. They continually feel that Tobagonians stupid, but we are not. We just read. We are smart. We know we head from we tail. We were very, very careful in putting that part of the document in. So don't come back and tell us that it was not there in the first place. And when they recognized that that argument will not work, because we knew what we were talking about, they then came back after and said, actually, you are right. it was there, but we got some lawyer to tell we, and the lawyer told us that we can't put that in. What madness is that? What lawyer could tell you that you can't put that in? And even if your lawyer tell you that you can't put that in, you have a responsibility to come back to the Tobago House of Assembly who sent the document to you and come back and have a discussion about that. You don't just change it down there in cabinet. You don't just change it down there at the GSC and then tell us after the fact, after you try to deny that you changed it, and then come and tell us now that it's some lawyer that tell you that we couldn't do it. It ain't working so. And the Tobago West PNM MP and the Tobago East PNM MP sat there and said absolutely nothing. And if for no other reason, Tobago, you send them home because they are not doing the job we gave them, you should send them home for that. You should send them home for that. They sat there and they did not represent the wishes of Tobago. They stayed silent. They ganged up with their Trinidad PNM counterparts and stayed absolutely silent instead of fighting for what we sent to Trinidad. That is what they did. That is what they did. They put their party before people. They put their red party before the wishes of the people of Tobago. They basically said, we do not care that so many thousands of you voted for us to speak on our behalf. We are going with what our party says, what our party does, and we do not care about you. And if for no other reason, you need to send them packing. Because you know that if that was Mr. Watson Solomon Duke, and if that was Mr. Shea Grace Boris, all now we were still hearing about the mashup that we mash up the story. Because we're not sitting down and take that kind of utter disrespect. We're not sitting down. Now the fact, let me go back again, we're going back to legislative independence. The fact that we even have to send it to cabinet and then cabinet has to send it to the parliament and all of that is the part of the problem in the first place. So let me go back to section 29 of the act. It says that we do our bill here, we debate it here in Tobago. When we do, we send it to cabinet, and basically the chief secretary beg whoever is in cabinet, the head of cabinet, to look at it and see if they can deal with it or not. And then after that, when cabinet decides that yes, they want to deal with it, they then send it to parliament for parliament to then deal with it. Parliament now has to argue, vote, and then decide whether parliament wants the Tobago bill to become a law. That is what's going on. That is what the current act says. Now, if Parliament decides that everything that the Tobago House of Assembly had done, all the work we had done to develop the bill and all of that, all of our rationale was correct, they can then agree to it. And when they agree and vote on it, it then goes to the president for the president to sign. That is what has to happen for a bill, an assembly bill, to become an assembly law. That is what section 29 of the current Tobago House of Assembly Act says. What we are saying, and we meaning the Progressive Democratic Patriots, the Bamboo Bolife, what we are saying is that, you see, all of that middle ground, all of that sending it to cabinet and then cabinet decide and then send it to parliament and parliament decide and all of that middle ground, nah, that is one behind the other. That is one behind the other. That is not side by side, because you are telling me that after I do all my work, you have to look over my work before you do anything with it. It means that two of us not on the same level. So it's one behind the other. When we talk about legislative independence, we mean side by side. So what we are suggesting, that section 29 is amended to remove all of that middle ground. All of that middle ground, we remove it. So when we decide on a law in Tobago, because we decide we need it to be a particular way, If we decide, for example, that because we think that our environment is so important and we have the clean, green, safe and serene thing, if we decide that we want to have a law that is a litter law, so if we find you littering anywhere, we find you spitting anywhere, we gonna charge you $500 because that is what we want to do to keep Tobago clean. We have to go through all of that? No, we should not have to go through all of that. All of we is big people. So when we decide, let's say we want to charge, if you find you spitting somewhere, we want to charge you a $500 and we want to make that into a law for ourselves, what we want the THA Act to be amended to is to say that we debate that in the Tobago House of Assembly, and after we debate it and we pass it in the Tobago House of Assembly, obviously we would work with our lawyers and so forth to make sure that it making sense and that it fits within the law and that it doesn't go against any law that is a bigger Trinidad and Tobago law and all of that. We are not crazy, we are not stupid, we are not children. We know how to do this collectively to make it work and to make it fit in and so forth. After we decide on that here in Tobago, in the Tobago House of Assembly, and we pass it in the Tobago House of Assembly, we should be able to send it directly to the president. So all the president has to do is sign and stamp, and it is now a Tobago law. It is now an assembly law. That is what we are asking the amendment to be. So the amendment would basically be taking out all of that middle piece, and say that when we pass it in Tobago, it goes straight to the president. That's what we are asking for. That is what Tashia Grace Boris and Watson Solomon Duke, when they go down on August 11, 12, 13, whenever the inauguration is, and they start negotiating, that's one of the things they would be negotiating for. Is that so difficult? Is that so out of this world? Don't Tobagonians deserve to be able to do that? Are you really saying that Tobagonians stupid so we can't make our own law that makes sense to we? So all of them young people that go in law school from Tobago, we can't hire them to work with we to do this? That is what you are really telling us? And that is what the Red Devil they're telling us, that you do not deserve that? So when the Prime Minister says anybody who's talking about independence for Tobago talking stupidness, that is what he is calling stupidness. Is he really Tobagonian, people? Ask yourself. Ask yourself, is he really Tobagonian? And by the way, if you think that what we are asking for is something that is so hard and so difficult and it cannot fit within our laws, let me burst that bubble for you. Because currently in Trinidad, all of the borough councils, all of the municipalities in Trinidad, so you have the Arima and the Port of Spain and the San Fernando and whatnot, all of them currently have that ability. All of them currently have that ability to make their own law, and after they pass their own law, they send it directly to the president for the president to sign. That is currently happening right now in Trinidad with the municipalities in Trinidad. So don't let it come with the Nancy story and tell you that cannot happen, because it is currently happening. It is currently happening with the mayors and the all of those leaders of the boroughs and the municipalities in Trinidad. It is currently happening with them. So all that we are asking is to allow Tobago the same level of autonomy that you are allowing those borough councils and municipalities in Trinidad. That is a simple amendment to the current Tobago House of Assembly bill that can be done with a simple, it hasn't even taken 5 minutes to word it differently, to put that bill before the Parliament in Trinidad and to have that passed within the first 30 days. And when we say within the first 30 days, I will always go back to the fact that in December last year, these same people in Parliament were able to come together, draft a weed bill, a marijuana bill, redraft it when they realized that they didn't mix up a male and female weed plant, carry it to both the upper and lower house to have it debated and passed, and bring out the president, must say on a Saturday or a Sunday to sign finally. They were able to do that in the parliament in Trinidad in under 30 days. That was a whole lot of words. That was a whole new bill. That was a whole long story if you've actually read the document. What we are asking for, the amendments of the Tobago House of Assembly Act, is just changing a couple words. And remember what we've said so far. You're changing the percentage of money that we get from the central government. You're changing it from 4.03 to 6.9%. You're changing that little wording to 10%. That's all. And the second part is, instead of all of that long writing on section 29, you delete all of that middle thing. And then say, when the THA passes it in Tobago, we send it directly to the president. It ain't taking nobody 5 minutes to make those edits, to write the bill that would make those edits. If you wish, we could hire 2-3 young lawyers to make sure we have all the words nice. That is what Tobago is looking for. And that is what we are saying, that within the first 30 days, whether it's the first bill or the second bill that comes to the parliament, that should be it. That is why Tobago, you need to put Mr. Watson Solomon Duke for Tobago East and Mr. Shea Grace Boris for Tobago West, because those are the things that they will be going down to Trinidad to articulate on our behalf. Those are the things that they would be going to Trinidad, so that when they get into the room with whoever is down there, we say, okay, you all have a big, you all are almost split equally in Trinidad to determine who becomes the government. You all need these 2 Tobago seats, and we are willing to loan you these 2 Tobago seats, but we're not stupid. We are loaning you these 2 Tobago seats because it's a negotiation, and we're not negotiating for ourselves. We're not negotiating to get some big contract for we family. We're not negotiating to get no big house and no hotel and nothing like that. No. We are negotiating for Tobago to get these things. That is what they are going to be going down there negotiating with. And as they've said on multiple occasions, I have said it, Mr. Duke has said it, several people have said it. When we go down to do that kind of negotiating, we are willing to negotiate with anybody in Trinidad. Anybody, because we do not care who they are in Trinidad. Our main aim is to negotiate on behalf of Tobago. So we will negotiate with PNM, and we will negotiate with UNC, and we will negotiate with both of them to see who gives Tobago what is best. This has nothing to do with those 2 parties and what they've been doing all these years or anything like that. This has to do with what Tobago is going to get out of these 2 seats being in the hands of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. Because we see what Tobago got with these 2 seats being in the hands of the PNM. Because when it's PNM in Trinidad and PNM Tobago and the 2 PNM seats, we recognize that those 2 people, like, they just get quiet. They can't talk. They can't say nothing. But we need people who can really negotiate and play hardball. And play real hardball with the 2 parties in Trinidad to see what we get from Tobago. What we get for Tobago. Because that is why we are here. That's the only reason the Progressive Democratic Patriots got into politics in the first place. Because we know that Tobago deserves better. We know that Tobago deserves more than what we are getting. We know that Tobago deserves more. That is what we are fighting for. And that is what Mr. Watson Solomon Duke and Mr. Shea Grace Boris are going to be going to Trinidad to do. To speak on behalf of Tobago and Tobagonians. Nothing else. Not for themselves. Not for their family. No. On behalf of Tobagonians. So on August 10th, I want you to get up early. Do whatever you need to do to get your head straight. Pray. Meditate. Go in your garden, some of we just go and chook a little bit, because that when you connect to the earth, that does make you feel. Do it early and ensure that you are in that line early, so that by 12 o'clock, every single supporter of the PDP should have already voted by 12. And after you have voted, you are then going to go out and spend the next 6 hours pulling everybody else who you know should be voting. Because that's the other thing, That's the other thing. They are trying to convince people that their votes don't count. We can't allow that to happen again this time. I always use myself as an example. There are so many people who did not go out and vote for whatever reason. And then when they recognize that I lost by 5 votes, they are now meeting me and apologizing for not going out and doing it. You see, we usually think of our vote as only one. We usually think that our vote is so inconsequential that it does not make a difference. We usually think that if, you either think, well, we're losing anyway or we're winning anyway, so it doesn't matter. That is not the truth. That is the story that they are trying to sell you. Now, by the way, when they're trying to sell you, the PDP supporters, that story, they are secretly calling all of their supporters and telling them, let's get up and vote for me, please. So they're trying to convince you to stay home and convincing their people to go out. Don't allow them and their foolishness to get away this time. Don't allow them, because you've recognized that they have not yet. All of the campaigning that has happened since they called the election, they have not one day spoken about what they are going to do for Tobago. Not one. I've been listening. I've been listening to all of the foolish story. I've been listening to when they talk about digging hole to bury who. Not one of them has spoken about what they will do on behalf of Tobago. So what you're putting them back there for? And don't allow them to tell you to stay home when they are making sure that they send for their people and their people goes out and vote. Don't allow them to do that again this year. Don't allow them to take that away from you. Because as I said several times yesterday, them the bread done butter. As I said several times yesterday, the PM's sheep are sleeping very comfortably in air condition. They are sleeping very comfortably in air condition. Is you to catch. So those who are there telling you that no, you can't vote for Watson and you can't vote for Tashia because of all kind of rigmarole story, you need to ask them, okay, so what are you offering me? Because I hear what they are offering, and what they are offering makes a whole lot of sense. So for you to convince me, you need to come better than that. Ask them. Ask them. And you will recognize that as soon as you ask them, they start backpedaling because they have nothing. They've thought of nothing. They've been there for the last 5 years and stayed quiet. Those 2 MPs, watched them change a document that Tobagonians have been working on for the last 15 years. And they sat there and said nothing. Absolutely nothing. So don't allow them to let you not get what you deserve because of it. Let me take this phone call. I hope I remember how to do this, my heaven.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, my dear doctor. Yes, that is what they've been doing. They imagine the PM, they orchestrate and concoct a lie about being part of the UNC and the UNC candidates in Tobago. And people just take that up without any kind of, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? If they have the evidence, bring the evidence to show. But they take that up and they run with it, because anything that spits out of somebody's mouth, they just take it up and run with it and presenting it as truth all over the place. And I shock at some of the people who are repeating this kind of foolishness. You know, this is what they do. Whenever they're threatened and they see that the team is winning, they come up with some kind of desperation lie to use, and that's what they did in the past with everybody who they bring down. You know, so you will just continue doing the kind of work you're doing and educate the people of Tobago.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And he is right. They are running with this as if, you know, and that's the thing. They are running with this lie, and that's the thing. They know it's a lie. They know it's a lie, but they are willing to continually perpetuate something that they know is an absolute lie, just to ensure that their bread keeps getting buttered and that his sheep stay in air condition. When they are doing it, they do not care about you. Obviously, they don't care about you. And they are willing to continue peddling that lie. I see I have a very lengthy message from on WhatsApp. Let me read that for you. From my perspective, when Tobago send MPs to Trinidad, those MPs are going with specific responsibilities to advocate for Tobago issues, which will bring about holistic development for Tobago. I completely agree. We are sending you to represent Tobago's needs, desires, demands to realize for Tobago. Things which will put Tobago or Tobagonians in a better position economically, socially, educationally, healthcare-wise, etc. We are sending you to advocate for the autonomy bill, for an end to the sea bridge woes, for getting a marine hub in Tobago, for ensuring that Tobago becomes a true tourism financial machine for Trinidad and Tobago, for bringing about measures of curbing the rising crime situation in Tobago. Things of that nature. We are talking about major identities which will bring about lifetime changes for all Tobagonians. I agree. We are certainly not sending our MPs to Trinidad to bring us back a fire station, a hospital, a police station, a sporting complex, or paved roads. Exactly. Those are things which fall under the umbrella of local government, of the Tobago House of Assembly. They fall within certain divisions of the THA. For example, the Division of Infrastructure, the Division of Land Settlement, and so forth. The person is 100% correct. For a Tobago MP to tell us that they should be returned to office because they brought a fire station, a hospital, a sporting complex, and paved roads to the eastern end of Tobago is simply a slap in our faces and a serious assault to our intelligence. Exactly. Incidentally, these folks in the East have been clamoring and waiting on these items for years, only to be dangled a carrot a few weeks before election. And they always come with that, the paved roads. That's what they're doing. Even some of the things that they're saying are complete, when you look at them, they have not been completed. Something I think that we should have elections every year in Trinidad and Tobago, because it seems like that is the only time. That is the only time we get performance. Lastly, I am about value for money. It says, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a way of putting up structures which, sadly enough, fails to bring us value for money. Case in point is our Scarborough Hospital. How many times we hear the phrase, what services cannot be performed here? We got clear indications during the COVID-19 pandemic, and as recent as yesterday, we saw where a gentleman sadly suffered a gunshot wound to the leg. He too had to be flown out to Trinidad because we are unable to provide the needed care and attention at our general hospital. We are putting up a hospital building in Roxborough, but will it be able to meet the special needs of folks who need to go there? Critical question. Hopefully, it wouldn't be a case where folks are told we cannot perform that service here, only to be transported to Scarborough and then to be flown to Trinidad. Having the structure, when it is finally built, will be nice, but it isn't finished as yet, because it is serviceability and functionality which matters most. I completely agree. Yes. Another function of our Tobago MPs in Trinidad is to advocate for a healthcare system in Tobago which does not have to depend on Trinidad for critical services. And finally wraps up saying, please don't insult us by telling us to return you to the office because of buildings for fire station and hospital as well as paved roads. I couldn't have said it better. I could not have said it better. It really is an insult. It really is an insult. It's like you telling me that I should thank you for doing your job. No. And that's not even your job. He's right. Those things are under the purview of the Tobago House of Assembly. And those things were under the purview of the Tobago House of Assembly, the same Tobago House of Assembly that your party has been in charge of for the last 20 years. And you were not able to deliver. I understand even right now, and I need proof of this, that even our cultural complex, the water tank, apparently parts of the roof is now falling in. Can that really be true? After we spent billions and millions of dollars on that thing? Can that really be true that part of the roof is falling in? That's why it is there locked up tight and we can't use it? So after you take 20 years to build it, or cost overruns galore, we still can't use it? And your MPs want to come now and say that we should put them back there after they stayed silent about the critical issues, but want to come back and dangle things in front of us, dangle buildings? Really? Tobago is better than that. We deserve better than that. The Progressive Democratic Patriots knows that we deserve better than that. And we are going to do everything in our power to ensure that Tobago gets the real kind of development that we really need. Because what they are doing, what they have been doing, does not make sense. And it is not working for average Tobagonians. If you want to call in, you can. The regular number to call is 717-9591. Again, that's 717-9591. And if you want to call in on WhatsApp, if you want to make a WhatsApp call, you can call 734-6355. 734-6355. So as I've been saying, what we have been speaking about is ensuring that Tobago independence is redefined. Let me take this call. Good morning, caller. You are on the air. Please speak loudly so that we can hear you.
Pleasant good morning, Dr. Feet. No, anything is expected with the sporting complex in Shore Park. The reason why that Robinson Crusoe Hotel was there for some years and it's all gone on in the sea.
So true, So true. And that is why even the Scarborough Sex School is an issue, because everything that is built in that area ends up being washed away. We have significant coastal erosion in that area.
Yeah, I work in the hotel in the 60s. And the sea take the whole hotel foundation is down in the sea. So anything is possible with land at Shore Park, it ain't properly.
That is so sad, And the thing is, I remember them having that conversation about how we shouldn't be building such a heavy structure in that area for exactly the same reason. And they simply ignored everybody who was giving good advice about it. Everybody who was giving advice, they ignored it.
Okay.
So thank you so much for calling, sir. Thank you very much. So again, 717-9591 to call on the regular line, and 734-6355 if you want to call on WhatsApp. So tell your friends, tell your family that this election, August 10th, is possibly the most important election for Tobago, because this is the election that can start the process of redefining Tobago. Remember, I told you that the PDP has been speaking very clearly about several kinds of independence for Tobago. And again, when I say independence, I mean not separating from Trinidad, but for Tobago to be independent in a way where we can stand foot in foot, where we can stand side by side with Trinidad. Because Trinidad currently is independent from Tobago for many things. When Trinidad has to write a bill and has to debate that bill in Parliament, they do not have to send it to Tobago for Tobago's approval. But when Tobago has a bill that we want to become a law, we have to send it to Trinidad for their approval. If Tobago, if any businessman in Trinidad wants to import anything, they don't need Tobago's approval. If a Tobago businessman needs to import something, it has to go to Trinidad. Hello, good morning, sir. Good morning. You are on the air. Speak loudly, please.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Right. Now, I want to tell you and Mr. Duke and Mr. Shea this. This election is our PDP election to win. But it have some work we have to do. We definitely have to go on the road. We have to do the groundwork. Now, it makes no sense that we say we all confident and all that, and the groundwork, we're not doing it, and then we realize after the election, we realize what we did wrong. I'm saying that, listen, you see, meeting the voters on a one-on-one, face-to-face. We need some more of that. We need to have supporters coming out and doing the work. I mean, the PNM know that they get color now, so they're doing all kind of things to sway back voters. And I'm saying that this is the thing that the PDP need to do. We have how much days? I think it's about 18 days or something like that.
Yes, we have 17, 18 days to go.
Right. We need to do this. We see. I mean, we have the people the undecided. We in business about the people who kill them dead. They're ready and clearly you're seeing where they're not satisfied with what's going on, but they're still ready. The people that saying that they're not voting, these are the people that we need to meet. We need to meet them and let them understand that, listen, this is not just an election for you alone. This is an election for the younger one. Because imagine it have people 20 years and they only experience PNM governance in Tobago. And we need to show them something different. And in order for us to build a momentum into next year, early next year, we need to start here. Let the people see us now. Many of them mightn't be listening to the radio. The radio program is good, but you see doing the groundwork, the foot soldiers, we need to have supporters, whether we keep in a meeting and have people in each village doing the work that they're supposed to do. This is something we need to do. I'm begging you all, please, we organize and get this done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much. And you are 100% correct. We need it on every level. So we are also asking those of you who are supporters, come out with us. Even if you are not coming out with us, because we have a packed schedule. As a matter of fact, this evening, thanks for that reminder, this evening we have a series of meetings where we are starting again at the Dwight York Stadium, leaving the Dwight York Stadium at 4 p.m. and heading up where we are going to be touching John Dial, Hope, and then up into Mount St. George. And we are going to end with our final meeting this evening at the top of George Field and Castara Road in Mount St. George, up near that area up by Miss Burney's shop or by Miss Burney restaurant up there. So we are heading out today. But I am asking each and every one of you who knows that you are a supporter of the PDP. Every one of you has an individual responsibility too to do what that gentleman has asked us to do. It means that even if you are not able to come to the meetings, you can make a phone call to your friend or to your family. Engage them in the discussion, because you who are listening are getting the information. And when you get the information, it is now up to you. We are hoping that you come together with us and help us to spread that kind of knowledge. When you are sitting there and you are listening to your radio, make sure you call your neighbor and have them listen to the radio program too. Make sure you do that. And I'm telling you, I'm asking you, because you know, sometimes we have some supporters. Excuse me. Yes, we have some supporters who are saying they want to see us, and we are on the ground, we are pushing, we are trying to be there. But there are many days where we pass by you and you wasn't home, and because the time is so short, we can't pass back by you, we can't pass back by everybody. So even if you did not see the candidate, even if you did not see us when we passed by you because you happened to not be there at the time, don't worry about that. You know where we stand. You know our philosophy. You know why we are doing this. Don't allow those people to pass by you and to for them to do their little thing. Don't. For them to come and whisper any foolishness in your ear. Don't. You know who the PDP is. And there are situations, because I have experienced it on multiple times, where we went into a community, we did a nice little walkthrough, we had meetings with the thing, but because you were not there, you did not get to see us personally. And we need you to not hold that against us, because remember, the time is short. Remember, this election was supposed to be in September. Remember, we had COVID, where all of us by law was required to sit down home and to separate and to keep social distancing and that kind of thing. You also have to remember that the reason they put the election for so close is because they were trying to ensure that we are not able to go out and do all of the work that we should be doing. But again, the restrictions are there. So we are asking you to give us a chance. Even if you did not see us personally, You know who we are. Everybody knows who Watson Solomon Duke is. Tashia Grace Boris, you may not be 100% familiar with her, but you know her family, and the fact that she's a part of the PDP means that she's of good worth. You've heard her speak on the radio. You've heard her be interviewed and that kind of thing. You know that the two of them together, Watson Solomon Duke and Tashia Grace Boris, going to Trinidad is going to be a phenomenal team. Parliament will finally be something worth looking at, something worth, because you know that when you hear the two Tobago MPs speaking on your behalf, you will be able to stand up and say, yes, that is what we want, that is what we've been fighting for. And you would not have two Tobago MPs that only going down to bang on this when their party says something foolish in Trinidad, and they know that what they're talking is not the fact. They know that what they're talking is not true. Talking about you grocery, okay, because you find almond milk in the grocery. What kind of foolishness is that? How many average Tobagonian does drink almond milk? Of course you would find almond milk in the grocery, because the average Tobagonian does not drink almond milk. It means that you are so removed from the average person that you don't even know that the example that you are giving is proof that you are not representing the people on the ground. I could not understand that utter foolishness, but that is who they are. They represent themselves. They represent their party. They do not represent you and I. And we have an opportunity on August 10th to elect Mr. Watson Solomon Duke and Ms. Tashia Grace Boris, two people who are actually people on the ground and who have been representing you. This is not something that we are now that say, well, okay, we don't know them. You know, everybody knows that in Trinidad and Tobago, in particular, in the last Tobago House of Assembly election, the Minority Council, which includes Mr. Watson Solomon Duke and Mr. Farley Chavez Augustine and myself, we are part of the Minority Council in the Tobago House of Assembly. And we have spoken up. There are only 3 of us compared to the 10 plus 3, 13 of them. We have spoken up on behalf of Tobago and Tobago issues every time we have opened our mouths. Every time somebody did not get paid, they call us and we talk about it. When the boats were not working, we were the ones who had the march and had the protest in James Park. We were the ones who did the swim as a significant, as a symbol of the fact that the boat's not working, so you're telling us we have to swim to Trinidad to get what we need. We were the ones who've been fighting when all of those contracts, again, all of those contracts that are given out in Roxborough, when they were being given out and we recognized that local people were not getting those contracts, and when we recognized that the buses were not working, we were the ones who walked from Roxborough to town in protest. And when we got to town, we hand delivered the letter to Udicott telling them, hey, we need you to ensure that when you are hiring people in Roxborough, that you hire Roxborough people. The PDPs who did that. We are the ones who did that. And when we did that, they would then started hiring more people, because they then had actually the list telling us that we could actually send people to be hired, because they know that they were not doing it before. We are the ones who did that. When the calls came in, they were not loud. So you have to make sure that you put people who have been advocating on behalf of you, who have been advocating for you, even in the minority in Tobago. These are some of the same people who we are saying you need to put us back there. You need to put us back there. Hello, good morning. You are on the air. Please speak a little loudly.
You hear me? Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Right, okay, good. Yes, I just was, me and our friend was just talking there a while ago about this outrageous money that they spent on these 2 hotels. That was totally uncalled for and squandermania of the small money that we already get in Tobago that could have gone to do several projects on the island, like the indoor sports hall and the other tourism projects we were shelved to help to enhance the tourism product we have here. Let us remind the nation about that. Squandering that $70 million, and under whose watch? Tracy Davidson Celestine. So those are some of the we need to continue to highlight these total failures that the PMM has been doing. You already don't have money to do certain things, and you squander that kind of money on those projects, which is something that you have really know nothing about running any hotel or anything. It's not to say that they bought the hotels, the staff were there, they were employed, and the hotel's been bought to keep the workers on. That's not even my reason. They bought the hotel while those hotels were closed.
So true, very, very true.
So then that is a total waste, and they've been sitting there for all this time, paying security guards to watch it for while they decay and so on. How do you explain that? And on that Tracy Davidson Celestine, who is saying that she's now leader, if you're doing something so foolish under your watch, could you imagine the kind of person, the kind of failure she would be as a chief secretary?
Fact.
Yeah?
So true.
So those are the same things we need to remind the nation of that.
And he is 100% correct. Yes, we actually have 2 hotels that we spent millions of dollars on. Millions of dollars on. Manta Lodge in Speyside and Sanctuary in that Black Rock area. It's not Black Rock. I can't remember the name of that area. Those who, if you go, you will see the hotels wasting away, and we spent millions of dollars on those hotels. And now the current chief sec is saying that we did not do a feasibility study, so they don't know what they're going to do. Imagine that, eh? Because we did not do a feasibility study, and he is behaving as if, well, the we wasn't the same he party that was in charge for the last 20 years. So now he is like it's a brand new story. He never hear about it before. And now they're not sure what they're going to do after we spent all of those millions of dollars. And the caller is right. That was done when the current political leader of the PNM in Tobago, Mrs. Davidson Celestine, when she was the Secretary for Tourism. This is under her watch. Under her watch. She has to take personal responsibility for those failures. She absolutely has to. Don't let her tell you that no. We have to be reminded of it. Because they would come back and again behave the same way they told us in 2017 that is a fresh face, fresh start, and that we are coming now and we're different and we're better and so forth. We know for a fact it is not true. Let me take this call. Hello, good morning, caller. You are on the air.
Good morning, Faith.
Hi, good morning, good morning.
Okay, I know there's a ton of issues, but my core issue is to find out if there would be any observers in Tobago for the elections, because I'm understanding that there might be in Trinidad. Is Tobago going to get any observers? Because I'm concerned about a free and fair election on all sides. Any thoughts on that?
Well, thank you so much for raising that. We do know that we usually do get international observers for our elections. I cannot confirm whether there will be individuals specifically in Tobago, but we will certainly put in that request and follow that through. Thank you so much for highlighting that issue. Thank you so much. So again, you could keep calling. If you are calling directly, you can call 717-9591. And if you are calling WhatsApp, you can call 734-6355. Again, if you are calling straight, call 717-9591. And if you are calling WhatsApp, 734-6355. Hello, good morning. You are on the air.
Yes, thank you. Let me engage you. You all would go the way like an organization. Because if there is a piece of land to buy, we do it. If the people we do it, I like to say we. Tobago people do it in a kind of cooperative thing to do agriculture. We could do beekeeping. You think you all would want to go that way? And then let me say something again. Like the people in Bonacourt, Canaan, where they are taking the lands to build the airport, extend the airport, right? We know that when you get a piece of land, you think of it that your great-grandchildren will be there. Yes, they are moving you. Let me say that development
we mustn't allow something to stand in the way of development. But the people must be amply provided with funds, even to an extent, because the amount of lands they are buying, my sister, they have to do economical business around there. So those same very Canaan people, Bonaccord people, whoever lives there, them could get a stake in whatever economical development is going there, in a little cooperative thing or whatever you want to call it. Because you have to give them that sense of understanding. Because them cater that I live there. Something I could build a parlor, I could run a restaurant in the yard. Then my son, my daughter, next 10 years could do this. They have that kind of belief going on. And that is shelf. So we are, where we are, in a way, we bargain in a way, listen. And you take into consideration how much it costs to build a 3-bedroom house now. Because you'll be moving them there to send them somewhere else. And let them have that kind of benefit, because the land today, if it was $50, years to come the price keep going up according to that area.
So true.
So that interest in business there for those people could square off when the time comes, because they would left that interest for their grandchildren as they are planned to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you so very much. And you are 100%. And as a matter of fact, I think I want to spend within the next couple of days, I want to spend the whole show talking about how that whole airport situation played off. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how that whole airport situation played off, because they are giving the impression, and if you are watching this from on the outside, you would think that everything is so nice and that is only a few people who making up noise, few people who don't like development, quote unquote, who making noise and whatnot, when in fact that is far from the truth. I would tell you, I would spend a day talking about how this entire thing went on, because what they've been doing has been so unfair to the residents, and what they've been doing has been so, it's just wrong. No one is saying they don't want development. We like development, we want development, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it. That is the critical point, how you do it, and the how that they did this is wrong, and I will spend a day highlighting that. Again, if you are calling directly, call 717-9591. And if you are calling on WhatsApp, call 734-6355. So again, as we are wrapping up this second hour, I want to highlight again the fact that what we are pushing for in the Progressive Democratic Patriots is within the first month to amend key components of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. And because it is an act of parliament, it means that it only needs a simple majority for it to pass, which means it needs about 122 people to agree for it in parliament for it to pass. That is what we are asking for. That is what we are sending Tashia Grace Boris and Watson Solomon Duke to Trinidad to do. But when they get there, they are going to be negotiating with whoever those parties are in Trinidad, whoever get the seats and whatever, so that we are saying we would throw our support behind the party. And Watson has said it several times, I have said it several times, that we do not care who it is down there. We are not a part of any of them. And our main aim is to get what we need for Tobago. So we are willing to negotiate with either of them, with both of them, because ultimately we are looking for betterment for Tobago. We do not care how racist they may be. We don't care. All you can do whatever you want down there. But we are asking for very clear things, and we are negotiating very clear things. One of which being 10% of the national budget, and that requires you to change one little line in the Tobago House of Assembly Act So you amend that one little line in the Tobago House of Assembly Act. That's what we are asking you to do. And the other thing we want you to do is to change the law, the Tobago House of Assembly Act, that says that if the Tobago House of Assembly needs to make a law, we don't have to send it to cabinet and then cabinet send it to parliament and all of that rigmarole story. When we make our law here, we just send it directly to the president to have the president sign. Hi, good morning. You are on the air. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. And
that's good, man. I am doing pretty well. Thanks for calling.
Right, and I think you're doing an excellent job here this morning. But one of the things that I want to reiterate, a point that you made in relation to letting Tobagonians know the purpose of the two seats. And I wanted to ask PNM a question, because they say, what the two seats could do. So it tells me that, okay, if to them it's no use, we'll just step out of the way and allow us to get the two seats.
Exactly.
However, I want you to keep emphasizing the importance of the two seats. And I like how you put it across. Good. And I believe that is what Tobagonians should know and need to understand the purpose of the two seats. Thank you. Locked on and listening.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you so much. And he's 100% correct. If to them it means nothing, it means, it shows you, to the PNM it means nothing, because that's what they're trying to convince you, that these two seats mean nothing, which means during that whole time that they were there, these two seats meant nothing. But we know that these two seats are the deciding factor. We know that having strong people in Tobago, strong people advocating on behalf of Tobago, strong two real Tobago MPs, that we are going to be able to move mountains. But as according to them, it means nothing to them. So Tobago, you need to prove to them that it really means nothing to them and it means more to you. The only way to prove that is to send Mr. Watson Solomon Duke and Mr. Shea Grace Boris down. And they are under the symbol of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, the Bamboo Bully Feet. So that's what you're looking for. PNM has already declared that these two seats mean nothing to them. They have said it over and over and over. What you gonna do? You can't do nothing with them two seats. They can't do nothing. It means they are saying that it means absolutely nothing to them. But if it means nothing to them, we need to show them that it means everything to us. This is the difference between life and death for many of us. And literally, it is the difference between life and death. I have a comment on WhatsApp. It says, good morning, doctor. Why didn't they have a land for land swap and pay just for the houses? Excuse me. Actually, we will talk about that, because that was actually one of the suggestions that were made, and that was one of the promises. Remember I told you I would have a full discussion about that? That was one of the promises that they made very early up in the consultation. But we know that PNM means promises never materialize. We know that very well. And this is a perfect example of them promising several things. Promise several things. And then it seems like every time they came to a different consultation, they would change their mind about what they promised last. It's as if the people who came to the first consultation and talk did not come to the second consultation, because the people who came to the second consultation and talk basically said that everything those who came to the first said was a lie. Don't worry. I would take an entire session to go through that entire process, because we are seeing where everything that they told us, every single thing that they told us during those consultations was a lie. Promises never materialize. Another example of promises that did not and have not materialized. Again, proving that they did not care about us. They did not care about the people who voted for them. They did not say that. Again, if you are calling regular, you can call 717-9591. If you're calling regular, say call 717-9591. And if you're calling on WhatsApp, you can call 734-6355. 734-6355. So, as I said yesterday, The Progressive Democratic Patriots has been asking people, has been promoting this idea of an independent Tobago. Not a Tobago that is separated from Trinidad, but a Tobago that is independent, the same way Trinidad is currently independent. Hello, good morning. You are on the air.
Faith, you are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, thank you.
Let me just assist you. Let's summarize a few things. PNM would have had power from 1956 to 1986. 6 consecutive 5-year terms. They had the time. They could have planned. They could have initiated some of the plans. And then when they got more money, they could have continued. They did nothing. Tobago only got a little bit when Robinson won the election in 86. We duck one, and we coached for we airport. But at least they were upliftments from where we started. What have they done since this man who spoke? What has he done since he came up to Tobago? Try to give away our lands to Sanders.
Exactly.
Let me tell you what PNM has done for Tobago from all that time. They built the Scarborough Secondary School. They built the Roxborough Composite School. But the only impressive project I would say that they did was that Roxborough Bloody Bay Road. They started it, at least they started it. The road needs some refinement now, but it was a start. Outside of that, nothing from Roxborough right up into Charlottesville, nothing. They were supposed to get some funding. They got funding from the EU to build the road from Lansford to Charlottesville. No one could explain where the monies have gone because the road was not done properly and the people have not been paid. So what you're putting them back in office to do?
Exactly.
That's my question. What are they asking you to put them back in office to do? To remove more people from Scarborough as they're moving people from Crown Point to build some nonsense project? I'll leave you to talk.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And yes, people do need to recognize the fact that since we've had independence, the PDP has been, the PNM has been in government in Trinidad and for a significant amount of time in Tobago. They have been in charge. Let me answer this call. Hello, good morning. You are on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Sheikh. How are you?
I am great, and you?
I'm doing well. You know, last night I was listening to the PDP's meeting in, I think you guys were in Lambo, and Mr. Duke shared a vision for Tobago about the opening up of Tobago. And, you know, it was something that I've always thought about. I've always thought about driving around those corners from Crown Point to Charlottesville. I've always thought about the difficulty in terms of it. I've also thought about the housing issue in Tobago. And I really believe, and I can attach myself to Mr. Duke's vision, because the man has a plan for Tobago. When he talks about the opening up of Tobago, when he talks about bringing university campuses to Tobago, when he talks about bringing in a permanent student tourist population in Tobago. Tobago needs a whole lot more people so that we can really create a larger economy. You know, Duke is on point, and we cannot trust the PNM. We're not only doing this for ourselves, we are doing this for 3 generations down the road. This is the seed, this is the mango that we're sucking, and we're planting that seed. And even though we're not going to be able to eat from it, we know that it's going to bear the fruit. And I'll tell you what, we're a small population in Tobago. But when you begin to look at the issue of land in Tobago and what Mr. Duke is talking about releasing the land that is in Tobago, that rightfully belongs to the people of Tobago, you know, what that is going to do what that is going to show the nation, it's going to want to release the wealth for us to begin to individually develop not only ourselves, but when we develop ourselves, we're going to develop the entire island together. We can go to the banks, we can get loans, we can build more individually, and then we can also build collectively. And you know what this is going to demonstrate to Trinidadians, especially to the black Trinidadians, that Tobagonians are very wealthy people, but our wealth has been locked up, our wealth has been stolen, and there are a bunch of people who've conspired. And you know, some of it is our family and our friends that are doing it. They've conspired to steal our wealth, to steal from our children, to steal from our future generation. And we cannot let them get away with this anymore. This is a very spiritual thing. You know, the scripture talks about removing the ancient landmarks and cornerstones. These people have burnt it up. And after this election, we will see the destruction, the complete destruction of these people and the People's National Movement. They need to go, they need to move, we need to exercise them out of Tobago. Have a good one, Dr. Faith.
Thank you so much, caller. And as the song says, move, PNM, move, let we pass. Move, PNM, move, let us pass. Because what we are trying to do on behalf of the people of Tobago is to allow all of it to live good. It's to allow all of us to do what we have to do so that our children and grandchildren would be able to be comfortable. We have a situation right now, and that's another thing we'll have to spend some time talking about. Most of us don't have access to papers to prove that the lands that we've been living us for generations belong to us. And if you don't have the paper, you can't do nothing with it. Good morning, caller. You are on the air.
Good morning to you, Dr. Faith.
Good morning, good morning.
The meeting at the Lambeau last night, I was really impressed. And the meeting was it was focused, it was on point. And I am saying to the PDP and its executive, if you continue along that line where we maintain focus, very clear objectives, that Tobago has no choice but supporting what is sustainable and extremely reasonable development proposals for Tobago. Even the PNM, deep in their consciences, will support the direction that the PDP has laid out for Tobago. I pray that you all continue in that line, keeping focus and articulate these areas that is necessary for Tobago's development. And at the end of the day, Tobago will create a template so that Trinidad and other Caribbean islands and the world in general can follow to true, meaningful, and sustainable development. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you so much for those words of encouragement. Thank you for those words, because it shows that people are listening and that they are hearing what we are saying and that we are going down the right track. Thanks to the leadership of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, Mr. Watson Solomon Duke. Thanks to the executive, because yes, we have a national executive of the Progressive Democratic Patriots that is led by Dr. Sean Ned. He's the chairperson. Our vice chair is Mr. Andrew Cohen. We have an entire executive that is working together to do what we are doing now. Good morning, caller. You are on the air. This is Dr. Faith.
Yes, Faith. There's another matter I'd like to raise. No. Are you hearing me?
Barely. There's a little bit of stuff in the background, but we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yes. The matter of land titles for Tobago people. I am aware, because I was on that committee, where Brunella Allen Toppin worked with Prakas Ramadan to approach this thing in a dignified way. Many consultations were held. The committee included legal people from the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Tobago House of Assembly had their representative. Deborah Miggins was on that committee, and some surveyors, land surveyors and so on. And the information that was unearthed from all that activity reached a stage where special approaches to the different communities with people getting
their land, documents on their land, and you're supposed to use GPS and all kinds of story to make, identification and so on easier. Those things were to take another stage. But after the election, everything was dumped and there was no continuation. So the PNM people must answer, why did they continue the activity? There are some things that must be done continuously, not because a government has changed. You must continue the process. And this was one that should have been continued. But if they had continued the process, it would look badly on their part, because they had all the years before and did nothing. And it took an Indian government to start it.
I hear you. Thank you so much for that little bit of information. Thank you so much, because that is a critical issue. We don't have access to the wealth that is within our lands. And even the people, I'm going to say it here again, going back to that Crown Point issue with the airport renovation. I know that there are people who are going to be asked to move who don't have titles. And I also know that some of those people actually met with the former Chief Secretary, Mr. Charles, about what is going to happen with them, because remember the documentation that's needed and that kind of stuff. And he basically said at that time that if you know you don't have land tenure and you don't have the documentation, you need to start going through the administration process. He said it. Now, I heard that he said it, and then I really didn't believe it, because I couldn't think, why would somebody say something so insensitive, knowing what that process is like, knowing how expensive it is, knowing how lengthy it is. Why would you even say that? But that was his answer. That was the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Kelvin Charles, who said that. That if you don't have the land in your name and you have to go through the issue, then you need to go through the administration process. And that was just so unfair, given that where the people are now and the situation now. So the fact that the caller outlined that entire process had started, because that's actually one of the things that the PDP has been looking into, ensuring that every single person who is living on land that their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have been cultivating and living on, you should have access to that. You should be able to say, hey, this land is mine, I have an acre or 2 or 3, and it is worth $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and like all the other people who can go to the bank with their documents and say, I now need a loan because I want to put up a building or whatever. They can do that. Tobagonians, as the caller before said, Tobagonians are being robbed from the wealth that they are living on because we don't have those documentation. And it's quite obvious that the Tobagonian quote-unquote MPs who've been there for the last 5 years have not cared one iota about that, because that is something they could have pushed. Because even if their government had decided to stop that project, they could have said, no, all you might want to stop it for Trinidad, but we can't stop it for Tobago, because we represent Tobago East and Tobago West, and we represent the people of Tobago, and this is something important to us. And that is why we are telling you, Tobago East, Tobago West, all of Tobago, we are telling you, you need to send 2 people, Mr. Watson Solomon Duke, Tobago East, and Miss Tashia Grace Boris, Tobago West, because they are going to be the ones who speak on your behalf. We don't eat a whole set of peanut butter and have a mouth close up. You all should know this by now. If you all have not recognized that Mr. Duke is one of the biggest freedom fighters that we have in Tobago, if you have not recognized just yet, just from listening to Miss Tashia Grace Boris, even when she does not have a voice, that she is going to be one of the loudest advocates on behalf of Tobago, I don't know what else we need. The Progressive Democratic Patriots came into being simply because a bunch of Tobagonians recognized that Tobago has been going down a way that has been too far, too long. We've been going down a road that has not worked for us for too long, and we needed people to step up and be a part of the change that needed to happen. That is why Mr. Duke decided to contest the general elections as an independent and then pull a group of people together to contest the Tobago House of Assembly elections. That is why Assemblyman Farley Chavez Augustine, who was, when you listen to him talk carefully, when we were able to call him and pull him together, and he was practically on his way out of Tobago. Because I'm one of those, I went to school and came back to Tobago and recognized, okay, we need to do this. If not me, then who? If not me, then who? And Watson Solomon Duke and Tashia Grace Burris have been saying, if not me, then who? And they have put themselves up to be the standard bearers. They have put themselves up to be the voice for all of us on the island who need help. They are going to do that on our behalf. They are going to do that on our behalf. And Tobago needs to recognize that where we are now is not where we should have been. Tobago needs to recognize that we've practically been standing still for 20 years. Tobago needs to recognize that if we had just followed through with the many plans that were there, Tobago really could be a little Dubai when you talk about development. With the amount of money that has passed through this island, that has just been wasted and stolen. Don't ever forget the fact that $10 million somehow went from one account to another account. And you telling me in this age of technology, nobody can tell me what account that is and who pick it up in this age of technology? Where if you are to do anything, you have to bring 3 ID cards and a camera picking you up from a mile away. In this age of technology, nobody can answer them questions for me. Really? That is what you are telling us? And we supposed to just sit down and listen to that and do nothing about it? That is why the Progressive Democratic Patriots is here, people. That is why we have the Bamboo Bolife people. That is why it is here. That is why we have decided to leave our cushy, comfortable life and to stand and to become politicians. Those of you who knew when I started this know that I hated the word politician. It used to be an insult when anybody said to me, Faith, you are a politician, because we knew the evidence of politicians over the last 20 years with PNM in charge it's not a nice one. It's not a nice one, but we are here because we want to change the narrative. We are here because we want to change how people think. We are here because we want to change how people live. And every single one of us, every single Tobagonian, every single person who is living on this island is a human being with rights. And because we are human beings with rights, we need to be able to live comfortably on this island. And that is what the Progressive Democratic Patriots is doing. Because we want you to live comfortable. The same way I live comfortable and Mr. Duke live comfortable, we want every single one of you. It's not just we alone should be able to live comfortable. Everybody should be able to live comfortably. And if Tobago gets the kind of economic development, the kind of economic independence that I was talking about yesterday, if Tobago gets the kind of legislative independence that I spent today talking about, then we will be on the way. We will be on the way to ensuring that every single Tobagonian lives comfortably. We will be on the way to ensuring every single Tobagonian lives like kings and queens, because that is who we are. That is who we are, and every single one of us have the right to live like that. Not just a select few. Not just a select few. Every single one of us. So guys, as I am wrapping up, I want to remind you, August 10th is the day. It is the day that we have to make a choice. It is the day where we can decide which direction Tobago goes. It is the day that we can decide whether we want freedom fighters working with us, working for us in the parliament, or do we want people who eating peanut butter and our yes men and our drummer boys and drummer girls. Who do we want to represent us, Tobago? Who do you want to stand speaking on your behalf? Do you want people who have been silent? Because the two of them have been there and they've been silent for the last 5 years. What you're sending them back there to do? To get a big salary? to continue to be silent when you can't even figure out how to get to where you need to get to? Is that what we're doing? I think we all deserve better than that. And because we all deserve better than that, I am recommending, I am asking, I am begging even that we give Mr. Watson Solomon Duke a chance. That we give Miss Tashia Grace Boris a chance. Give them a chance. You've given the PNM multiple chances. You've seen what they have done with the chances. They've been in charge in Tobago for the last 20 years. They have been in charge in Tobago for the last 20 years. 15 of those years they had PNM in Trinidad. So when they tell you about the PNM in Trinidad and PNM in Tobago thing and how that would have been nice, you are experiencing your life. And if you are honest, most of you, normal for most of us, is not that nice. But you see some of them, plenty of them, experiencing life, a select few, experiencing ham, lamb and jam, and the rest of we had to suck salt. Tobago, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to make the best choice. The best choice, not for them, but the best choice for yourself on August 10th. I am asking you, I'm begging you to please vote for Watson Solomon Duke in Tobago East, and please vote for Tashia Grace Boris in Tobago West, because these are the PDP, Progressive Democratic Patriots candidates, and we know that Tobago deserves better. We know that Tobago deserves performance. We are putting people before politics, and we are the ones who are going to ensure that all of the things that you've been promised for all of these years, we're finally going to start putting Tobago in a space where we could get those things. Again, listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow morning at 7 to 9, and then 10 to 12 again. If you are in the area this afternoon, or if you live in that John Dial, Hope, Mount St. George area, look out for us. We'll be passing through there. If you want to join with us, we will be starting at 4 p.m. at the Dwight York Stadium and moving up, having spot meetings in John Dial, in Hope, and then in Mount St. George. We'll end up at the top of Mount St. George, up by Miss Bernie's shop, up in that area there, that cross section with George Field and Castara Road. That's where we will be. Join us. Even if you can't come out and join us, listen to us on air, listen to us on Facebook, make the calls, encourage your friends and family to be a part of this, because we need every single one of us to do our part. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to the callers for calling. Thank you so much for the words of encouragement. Thank you so much for the prayers. Thank you so much for the prayers, because we continually need them. The Progressive Democratic Patriots is here because we love Tobago, and we know that Tobago deserves better. We know that Tobago deserves performance. Thank you and have a great evening.
We are vote PDP, full time we try to beat Mr. Hardy. Vote PDP, we are vote PDP. Kick out, pressure pot rolling. Vote. This I don't know, this I don't know, this I don't know group. Vote, say we are vote. Full time for them, this I don't know, this I don't know group. Vote. What I say? This I don't know, this I don't know group. Vote. Kick out, pot rolling. Right now we are say Watson D for the east, Tasha B for the west.
Cheers. In collaboration with Dizzy.
The technocrats are for you. We will fight for you.
The handwriting is on the wall. PNM, new empire. It done for.